Hello, Sian. Thank you very much for being with us today. It's a pleasure.
It's nice to be here. I'm happy to be talking to Spain.
Yeah. Have you been to Spain? Have you ever been to Spain?
I've been to Barcelona. It's one of my favorite cities
Good,
that I've
good,
ever
good.
been to.
Perfect. Just recent news. How do you feel about your SAG nominations today?
It's so exciting. I woke up, this morning and just like forgot that they were releasing those nominations today and checked my phone and there were many, many messages and I'm just so thrilled for my cast to be recognized, particularly by other actors, because I think there's been a kind of separation or removal as though like that these are deaf actors. And I think the identity of like, these are not deaf actors, these are actors and they have incredible range. And Troy Kotzer's been a theater actor for 30 years and has never had this kind of recognition and has struggled in the business. And so to watch him have this moment and to watch my whole cast have this moment is just very moving.
And why do you think this movie from Sundance, but now too, when it's being released in many countries and with these nominations, why do you think it's so moving for people who watch it in the cinemas? Which ingredient of your movie do you think is so moving for audiences?
I think we are in a time where the pandemic has certainly made everybody take stock of what's important in their lives. And I think the thing that's emerged probably for most people, I'm speaking for myself as well, is just that family is the most important thing and that the people that we love and the people who love us is really what makes life worth living. And I think this story is a love letter to family. And even though this family is very specific and culturally very specific, they are messy and flawed and real in the way that people feel their own families are. And so I think there's something very universal and relatable in the story. And a lot of people have said, I've heard from a lot of children of immigrants who have talked about that CODA role, even though it's very specific within a deaf family, that they have felt it coming from an immigrant family where you serve as the translator for your parents or you're the bridge culturally between two worlds. And so I think in a way, even the specificity of the story has really resonated with people who've had similar experiences, but from a different perspective.
And how difficult would you say was it to build this project up? Because the subject of the film is not so commonly seen in cinemas. Was it? Did you struggle to build up this project?
Yes, I mean, you're right. I don't think most people are like, let's make a deaf fishing music movie. Yeah, it started out as a studio project. It didn't end up there. I think the studio had a hard time wrapping around whether this would feel like a commercial project. I think it's been part of the delight at that sale at Sundance and watching the movie and the way that it's rolled out in the world and the response from audiences and critics is that it was a very specific story that was very hard to make. And there weren't big stars in the movie and there wasn't a big high concept behind the movie. It was a very simple story at its core that I think just made people laugh and cry and was something that people needed right now. So yes, it was a huge challenge and I had to fight a lot of battles along the way. And I'm so glad that I fought them because we made the movie in the way that it needed to be made. And I wasn't willing to compromise on a lot of the elements, the casting, using authentically deaf actors, having a large percentage of the movie be in ASL, having a large percentage of the movie be in silence. And those things were very important to me. And I'm happy that I fought those fights.
I would say, I don't know if you agree with me, but I would say we live in the era of representation in the United States. I mean, we are living it with Latinos and Latinas in West Side Story or women everywhere, fortunately. What did you want to say about deaf families and children of deaf adults, of course, with your film? Which point did you want to make?
I think I wanted to make a movie that was incredibly culturally specific and authentic without telling a story that was about a disability or had, I think using humor, having this be a very funny family that people could connect to, and, you know, that the father is embarrassing and outrageous in the way that some, you know, any father can be embarrassing or outrageous. And so there, in a way, it's normalizing to take a culture that has felt other for a long time and then just create very relatable characters that feel real and connected and universal. And I think that's the strongest tool we have for creating empathy and for representation, is the kind of specificity where you watch the film and, you know, many people watch the film and they say that they forgot that they were watching sign language, you know, that by the halfway through the movie, you sort of feel like you're listening to these characters. And that is a very powerful tool, I think, for creating connection and creating empathy and, you know, a human story that doesn't feel like it's defined by being other.
Mm-hmm. And this film is going to be shown on cinemas in a time in which cinemas are not, I would say, in the best shape of all times. We have platforms and we have people afraid of going to closed spaces because of the pandemic. How do you see the future of this business? Yeah.
I hope that the theatrical experience continues. You know, I definitely think I was removed from that for a long time. We didn't have a premiere. You know, it was a long time before I ever saw the movie with an audience. I've never done that, where I finished a film and never watched it with an audience. And when I finally did, I was like, oh, it's a comedy. Because that's what, you know, everyone would tell me, oh, I cried in the movie, and I forgot like that the audience is laughing through the whole movie. So the first time I sat in a theater, I remembered that I had made a comedy. So that experience is so important, and it's a part of our connection. And I think it will endure. I think that people, you know, are afraid right now, and I understand that. At the same time, I think we are longing for a communal experience and a public experience, and certainly sharing a story with strangers in a room and hearing people laugh together and cry together is a powerful experience. So I'm hopeful that movies continue and that theatrical continues.
Sian Heder, director of CODA, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.